Hello, everybody. All right, Metal. Well, how are you doing, my friend?
I don't even know yet. I'm gonna say I'm doing good. I woke up alive. That was pretty good. So,
Yeah, yeah. So basically, of course, we'll wait, give people a chance to get in here before we get started on too many things. I know because I happened to drop in last night. Of course, I know you were. I know you had your show last night, right?
yes, I did today. That would be Saturday. I always do a show on Saturday,
Mhm.
and I did see your comment there. So, sorry, I'm piecing things together slowly in my head. I'm like, when do we do this show? Oh yes, this is Sunday, so that did mean I haven't had a show yesterday.
There we go.
I know I
All
was
right.
one of the reasons I woke up so late is because I was also on this morning, right? I've been trying to churn out the
Yeah.
content, so some of the stuff I've been doing is gaming, and I wanted to keep
Yeah,
going even
I've
longer,
been
but I was
seeing
like,
that late. Just I've been busy myself at times. I haven't been able to get over to like and share for you.
oh, that's perfectly fine. I mean, I do appreciate when you do, but I have no expectations from anyone.
Yeah. Well, I usually do it just I figure try to do what I can. I don't get on I don't get a chance to like and share as many as I do because of the fact I'm usually busy doing other stuff at some of those times too. Aside from
Yeah.
our show, I have my other little things I do as well.
Yeah, if there's like, because I've been doing a lot of them in the evening. If there's crossover, I know somebody's on. I usually try to have. I can't really hear what's going on. I have it like on my phone, so I at least get people views and stuff. But I take it at this point we're pretty much just stalling to see if Rick can hop on in time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get. I mean,
I'm pretty good at
yeah,
stalling.
plus. Apparently, there's still only one viewer, so um,
That's
so
not even me.
obviously,
I'm still trying to get to the channel.
yeah, it's probably me. For at least a
Yeah.
brief, you know. Yeah, YouTube screw you that way. They don't always count you as a viewer of your own content. That's just kind of stupid.
Half the time it doesn't even count me as a viewer of other people's content. And that well, it's because I use Brave. I specifically turn the traffic blocker off on YouTube, so it's not supposed to affect views. But sometimes it's just weird, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. I think I saw a headline recently where there's something like YouTube still going after people who are using ad blockers, even though they have record profits.
Yeah. Oh, I hate their ads. I saw an ad for the first time in a while though, because it's like ad blocking is like an arms race where every so often there's like a new type of way they integrate the ads that the ad blockers don't know how to do yet. So then the ad blockers have to catch up. And the funny thing was, the only ad I've ever seen in like the last 5 years on YouTube had to be for a video game I already play. So it's like that wasn't a very effective ad anyway. Good target, not effective.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. And I see you did get on and you're watching and liking, so thank
Yep,
you for that.
I did finally hit it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there he is. It's Rick, everybody.
Hey, Rick.
Rick probably turned on his camera, then stepped away from the computer. No.
Well, no, I forgot to turn on my mic.
Okay.
I was just saying, sorry, I'm a bit late. I was at a church event through a church that I went to before, and well, just got home like like about 5 minutes before your show started, and I had to go to the washroom real bad. So it's like
That was my hypothesis. Was it was one of the very rare occasions that you did something late after church.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, Rick, if you can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see where you can get some more other people on. I'd be appreciated.
Just about to do that if I can find it.
and of course, for those in the chat, even though we don't have anybody in the chat yet, if anything we talk about grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. And we will try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So, with that, we're just let's see, where are we at? Let's see. So yeah, no, there's technically 3, but let's see. We're just past the 6-minute mark. So what we'll do, we'll start out with introductions, and then we'll just we'll just go start up a conversation, see where it goes from there. If we run out of stuff to talk about, I do have some material to go over. We can, do that. So, well, since Metal today is in the upper right-hand corner, we'll start with him, and then Rick, and then, so you guys go ahead and do your intros, but we'll start with Metal tonight.
No, okay. I am back at my computer.
And of course, feel free to share any link. I'm sorry. I'm a little out of it, I guess, but feel free, of course, to share any links you guys would like to, in promoting your channels and your projects, whatever. So, anyway, sorry about that, Metal. Go for it.
Yeah, no, it was fine. I was just getting back into my chair. I had my headphones on, so I heard everything you said, but I realized because I just woken up, I forgot to put deodorant on, and I could smell myself, so I had to go solve that problem.
Okay. That's something you don't hear every day on a stream, right?
You probably hear it a lot on my streams, but I'm very frank, I guess, to be frank. But hey, I'm the Metal. I do a little of everything, I guess. One of the things I've been doing most lately is I've been trying to build up the Vomitorium channel over here on YouTube and Twitch. But YouTube's all I actually really care about. And I run a semi-weekly show, so twice a week, on Tuesdays and Saturdays, covering topics not too dissimilar from here, mostly about games, film, sometimes comics if there's something interesting to talk about, science, technology, conspiracy theories, whatever I feel like talking about. I'm eclectic that way. And I've been playing a lot of video games over there too, and thinking of other content that we might be running that's also not video games. I'm deciding things. I'm building it, but they can find it over here, youtube.com/@thevomitorium podcast.
There's just a lot of stuff you need to spew forth.
Yes.
All right, and then of course here's his link for everybody to, and that's the Vomitorium channel, right?
Yep.
Anything else you'd like to mention before we move on, or?
At the moment, there's nothing pertinent.
All right, just stuff you already talked about, like your magazine and all that, right?
Yeah, if anybody's curious about that, they could. I always have a ticking banner going across my webcam. They can see it there.
All right. And let's see. And hey, JR.
Yes, hello, JR.
Great Xenu's Ghost. You began without me.
Of course we did.
Hey, I always do it right at the top of the hour. I'm probably unique in that respect. I'm probably one of the few YouTubers who actually, if I say something starts at 5 or something starts at 6, it starts at 5 or it starts at 6.
It starts at the time that you say it's going to start at.
Right.
Your time or whatever time frame that you give.
See, I do that for our main show, but I also give people like a 30-minute window to feed in, so I've got like music and stuff playing before we actually go live. It's helpful sometimes. Sometimes like it doesn't really matter. People don't come in until the exact time, but I just like to do that. It's fun.
Yeah, I tried that for a bit. I in some ways I think I got to start trying to do that again, but
yeah. And then Rick, I know you I just put your link
Link up.
up. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you want to do your intro now? I got your
Well,
link.
of course, I am Rick Piper of Cross Comics. What I guess I'm going to promote right now is basically two things on my website. I just recently got issues printed of the Canadian Shield remastered. That was Friday that I had that done, or picked them up, anyways. And so they are now available on my website. And so if people want to order them, they can. And also, um, I've got T-shirts on my website, various designs with my characters on or whatever. So if you want to grab a Cross Comics T-shirt, be sure to check out my website. There's a link, and there's other stuff you can buy too, and other stuff you can check out.
And I know you've been doing some, I guess, draw streams, for Canadian. I don't know if it's Canadian Shield or Snowdrift, or you got another new project coming out or what?
Oh yeah, well, of course I have my regular shows during the week on YouTube here, and then I try and do a bunch of different shorts of different things. So, and to JR's question, they're $5 plus shipping for, and since I know you're in Canada, I'm charging $5 shipping to Canada, so $10 total.
Well, yeah. Let's get caught up on JR's. Let's say, yeah, I'm dealing with an evacuated cat that is allegedly living in our basement, but I've never seen the actual cat.
So is this a Schrodinger's cat?
Let's see. The cat
Schrodinger.
was evacuated all the way from Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, our Alaska, to Edmonton just to disappear like a ghost. And then that was the question he pondered for you. All right. So, anyways, yeah. So I was hoping that RJ would join me tonight, but he's been and I was talking to Metal about this before you came on, Rick. RJ is out with Rini Straczynski. I guess she just had a book come out and they've been out partying all day. So hoping he would have been in to talk about what we read a bit Friday, give his perspectives and promote his stuff. But
Oh yes, her book
Yeah.
was called Fiendish.
Cool.
yeah, so so anyway, so this past Friday, of course, we read from Smash Comics Volume 1, Number 6, and Feature Comics Volume 1, Number 28 from Quality Comics. The features we covered, of course, were Espionage with Black X. Let's see, Invisible Hood. The feature is called Invisible Justice, but the hero is Invisible Hood. The Clock, and Dollman. And we were thinking about doing, and I was thinking about doing Charlie Chan at the time, but we got through, through those 4 stories, and we actually talked a bit for a while at first, so that's why we're only able to get to those first 4 stories. So, but good readings Friday, very interesting to see some routes of where comics came from and comparing it to some growth over time. Yeah, well, because one of the things I always, RJ mentioned this, and I've mentioned it too before, how back in the golden age there, and of course you guys as my co-host as well have seen this as well. Back in the golden age, they were anthologies, and you'd have one detective story here, Western, maybe a sci-fi here, you'd have super, it'd be quite a bit of a hodgepodge of an anthology, and it was and it is interesting to see kind of the different takes and stuff like that with that. And then and of course some of the guys had some interesting names. There was some villain, like Dollman was taking on Dr. Rodent, who would basically sit there and strap bombs to rats and then blow up his targets.
Sounds like something the Penguin did in a movie.
Yeah, there are like 15 stories in the one edition you appeared to go over. I don't know if it was that many, but yeah, depending upon like the superhero anthologies usually would have 7 to 8. The reprint anthologies would have like double, like 10 to, by November 1939, which is where we were, would have like 10 to 13 features in the reprint. The reprint anthology, the ones I'm talking about, are ones like Famous Funnies, like the stuff that Dell was doing at the time.
Yeah, and a lot of those were in like newspapers and
The
stuff.
newspaper comic
Yeah.
strip, and you did have some that were you had some like feature comics for quality that were a mix of the two. They'd have a mix of new material and reprint material. In fact, one of the other features that was in, I think it was in Feature Comics. I don't know if it was in Smash or Feature, but which today, if I could just see the tears flowing. They saw this particular feature. There was a feature called One Clue, spelled WUN. Okay, so I'm gonna spell out the title of this particular feature, and then you guys try to see if you can figure out what was probably wrong with it. Okay, so One Clue, one spelled WUN, Clue spelled CLOO. Just with that one clue, can you guys figure out what people might have an issue with?
Well, it's definitely using a Chinese name for the name of the story, like a person's name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's correct. And if you were to see this character, I'll put it this way, it was quite stereotypical. Put it that way. In fact, yeah, maybe I'll just go ahead and just try to pull that up. Actually, yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it was actually. Now that I do think about it, I think it was Smash Comics. I'm just pulling it up so you guys can see. Obviously, we're not going to go back and reread the comics or anything like that. But I just wanted to show you this. Because if people saw this today, the tears would be flowing like a river.
Well, I've had time to look it up too, and apparently he was a laundryman who happened to also be a student of criminology, and that's why he did detective. But like he had a very stereotypical Chinese job, like dry cleaning your laundry and stuff like that.
Oh, so I didn't even see that part, but.
And he's a parody of Charlie Chan.
You know what's kind of interesting about that too is that in the same company they actually had a Charlie Chan feature as well. So they're featuring not just the main character, but also the parody of the main character. That's interesting in its own right, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Well, I'm not surprised that there would be an actual Charlie Chan feature, though. But he was such a popular character in the detective novels that he was written originally, which was Biggers was our author of him. That he had several TV, I think even a radio appearance at one point in time. There were multiple people who've played the character in those earlier days, back when TV was still completely black and white. That it would make sense that there'd also be like a comic version. And it would also make sense that how popular it is that somebody would make parody versions of him too.
So this right here is the feature that I'm talking about here. And then they even have it in the Chinese broken English there. Him very good detective.
Did we not read that? When we did that last, didn't we read that one?
No,
The,
we know. We didn't read One Clue. I think this is One Clue's first appearance.
oh, okay.
But we probably did read one. We probably did read a similar one there to it because back in that time period, of course, there were a lot of like those type of parodies there. You know, that today would be skewered like crazy. You know, you'd have the tears running. So
Well,
I think
at least if they are going to use the broken English there, right? The person was smart enough to know the difference between how Chinese and Japanese people speak. Because one of the things I always laugh about is you'll have like a Chinese restaurant, like a Christmas Story, and one of the jokes in it is that they can't say fa la 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 la, they say fa ra 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 ra. But that's like a Japanese way because they don't really have L's in it. Chinese has tons of L's, very few R's. So if it would anything, it would be the other way around, where they don't really say a lot of R's and it's a bunch of L's.
Yeah. So yeah. So basically, that's what we're covering there. Let's see. And we're back to. So, anyways, anything else? Anything else you guys want to bring up or anything like that?
Nothing I can think of. I'm trying to think if there's anything interesting.
Well, okay. Well, if that's the case, then what I'll do.
I don't know if it's been reinstated yet. I could double check. I saw earlier today that Ethan Van Sciver's Twitter account got suspended.
I think I did kind of hear something about that on Rex's stream earlier. I think Rex, Lorenzo, and Shadowhawk were all on there talking a little bit about it. What do you get suspended for this time?
I don't know, and it looks like he is still currently suspended. So, I mean,
has he been suspended before? This is the first time I've heard of him ever getting suspended on Twitter. At least in recent years or whatever.
Hey, Shadowhawk, welcome to the show. If you can help us out by liking and sharing the stream, seeing if we can get some more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. And of course, I did send you the link earlier, the StreamYard link. So if you want to join us in the studio as well, be part of the conversation, feel free to do so.
A lot of people are trying to say that it was like a false flagging, where like people were flagging him for doing something he didn't actually do until it triggered the system. I don't know if that actually is the case. It's just like a hypothesis people are throwing around.
Yeah.
Well, that happens to a lot of people on the right, you know. And again, even though I know, it's kind of funny because when people were talking about how, Elon Musk is buying Twitter and everything's going to be all right now because, you know, he's going to allow for free speech, this, that, and the next thing. And then, you know, and you had all these SJWs who were on there saying, well, we're going to go to another side. We're not going to be there for Ethan, for Elon, you know. And I remember Yellow Flash was talking about, like, no, they're not. Twitter is their life. They're not going to leave Twitter.
Plus, all the other sites suck. Like, none of them are good. I have Threads. I tried it. It's not as good as Twitter. It's kind of boring. It's like, of course, they're all going to be on Twitter. Where else are they going to go?
Well, I can tell you that I can tell you firsthand, you don't need Twitter because I got out of it like going on 4 years ago.
Well, you don't need it if it's your form of entertainment. It does really help with promotion, which is why I'm on there. I don't really interact on Twitter very much.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, to me, I just feel it'd be a waste of time. I mean,
Yeah.
um,
But a lot of those people are addicted. It is their form of entertainment. It's almost like their drug.
yeah,
And these other
I
sites
don't
just
know.
can hit their fix.
Well, it's kind of funny because part of the reason why I got off of there is because I realized I was getting caught up in all that too. Because I'm one of those I can get set off pretty easily if not careful, and you know. So now Jr. here is saying they're now I've doubled your audience. I'm watching on my phone in bed. All right. I'm off social media, Facebook for 10 years and Twitter for 2. Yeah. I mean, I still
Good for
maintain
you.
a Facebook, but I feel like a junkie who went clean. Yeah,
The thing too, like I have Facebook. I almost never use it. I only even keep it on my phone because there's like for years been a ton of people that the only way they communicate is through Facebook Messenger. So it's like if I want to keep in touch with people, I need to have a Facebook.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of those who usually
Yeah.
will use Facebook Messenger to, you know.
Yeah. And again, I have Facebook. I use it to, promote and, yeah, the odd family thing or whatever.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So, it probably just a bunch of SJWs that had nothing better to do, so they just figured they'd just go after Ethan again for some stupid reason.
Yeah.
You know.
And it is definitely the type of thing that happens to people that are right leaning way more often than does to the left. Because I think the only time I ever see people on the left get hit by like mass flagging is when they like piss somebody off from the alt right. So it's like another extreme faction of people. But like you barely need to do anything if you're on the right to piss off enough people to flag you on the left.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, bro. Find the link. Wait, Facebook. Yeah, I sent it to you via Facebook Messenger. In fact, I know you responded to me, Shadowhawk. Is that I'll try to be on. So, um, I always send it via Facebook Messenger. Um,
Yeah.
I
See,
you,
there's unfortunately one reason that you should you should probably have Twitter just so you can send people the link.
yeah.
Well, if Twitter had its own dedicated messenger app so you didn't have to go to the main Twitter like Facebook does, that would be so much better.
I still YouTube, but my interactions are almost always with people I have a bit of knowledge of. Well, I'm glad I'm one of the few people that you interact with, Jr. And thank you for that. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
same here.
And YouTube actually, it's been borderline whether it's social media or not for most of its existence. But ever since they opened up the community posting section to every channel, it's like a technically full-on social media these days. Like you could keep up with people you follow through their community post section, and you can comment and they can reply and things.
yeah. Well, I mean, the way I use it is kind of a social outlet because it's a way of making connections with people. I mean, I've said this on several occasions that a lot of my stated goal is to try to connect people by getting them to engage in conversation on a lot of the stuff that we share and a lot of this niche topic stuff. That hence the name of the show, the Mikestand. There's Shadowhawk. Hey, Shadowhawk.
Hey, I found you.
Yeah. I
Dude,
always send a link.
Facebook is like the last place I go to. I'm so sorry, man.
No problem,
I'm
but
I'm like searching
always know
Twitter,
that's how
Instagram.
I
I'm like, I
communicate.
got nothing.
Yeah, always know that that's how I communicate. So when I tell you that I sent you the link, I usually will send it through Facebook Messenger. And let's see, Jr. just said something more here. Mike, a year ago, you had 6 viewers, all of whom you modded, by the way, who were trying to get you to make anti-trans statement to make you a lolcat?
Locale.
No, I don't. No, none of them were.
Wow, what
Never
the?
tried to make
What?
me say anti-trans statement.
He's
Yeah.
saying this was a year ago or so.
Yeah, well, and the people who I had on a year
I
ago.
don't remember any of that going on. So
Yeah. Well, I think what he says is people in the chat a year ago this happened on. He's saying a year ago this happened on your channel.
Yeah, I don't necessarily.
Maybe you didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, he's talking about all the people I modded. So, who are all of them were right-leaning
No.
individuals. That's like the people he's talking about are like Batgoat.
No.
shit.
He's
Guys,
saying,
I'm like lagging really hard. Can you
what? Shadow, I think you might be roboting. No, what he's saying is a year ago you had 6 people in the chat at that time that were trying to make you say anti-trans statements, and at that time you had modded them for whatever reason.
Well, okay, because I do know who I modded.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, no problem. What were you asking us to try and do, Shadowhawk?
Well, I think I did it. I sent him out for a moment and then brought him back in because he said he was lagging. How are things now, Shadowhawk?
I'm not sure whether he has the best internet. I think he has this problem sometimes on Rex's channel, especially when there's a bunch of people in the.
Well, because I know he uses his phone more. I don't, that's the thing too. He uses his phone. Shadowhawk, can you hear us?
Type. Is he saying anything in the private chat? No.
Yeah, he did. So hopefully he'll come back. But
yeah.
Well, I know who all modded, and they never were trying to make me say, because the people. Okay, so the people he's talking about, like, well, one of them still is here on occasion. Woody. Woody's a guy who I modded, so he's one. He's
but I don't think he's talking about Woody. He's talking about 6 people you modded a year ago.
Well,
but he can look at all of his mods.
Were
yeah.
Batgoat, I don't think Batgoat was my co-host before.
Yeah.
Got all Action Toys channel. Leto Enchanted. Let's see.
Yeah.
And none of those guys were ever trying to.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying Batgoat or Woody. Are there any other people that you've modded that, like if you go into the background of YouTube, there's a place that shows you everybody you've modded. Yeah. You've modded me, modded JR, Shadowhawk, and obviously he's not talking about any of us. I'm sure Metal's modded. Metal's modded.
Yeah, he is. I'm pretty sure of it too.
I can see the thing for Metal. Yeah. But in some ways it doesn't matter. That was like a year ago, and there's going to be people like that come around, possibly our channels.
Yeah, but
we just deal with them the best that we can.
But like I said, I know who I modded, and who I modded, and granted, and very, I've had to unmod a couple of people, or have asked me unmodded because like Solid Redfield, for example. But but like in each case, it's like I have lost some because there were I did have a good 5 or 6 people come on every night, or just about every night. And
he says he says, yeah, not Woody, but they only stuck around a few weeks, and it sure sounded to me they were baiting you into anti-gay statements. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, the people that I know I modded, that I remember I modded, I don't
Yeah,
think none of them were ever trying to do it. I don't.
yeah.
You,
Well,
you,
I think he's talking about people you might not.
there are people who I know did come in, who were trying to make trouble, like JDA, for example.
Yeah,
And now he was somebody, obviously the troublemakers. I didn't mod them. I blocked them, or
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, but I think he's talking about other people that got modded somehow. You may not remember, like you said, you if you modded them a year ago and they haven't been around, would you remember that you modded them?
He could also just be wrong. About
yeah,
the
yeah,
modding
that,
part.
yeah, too.
yeah. It probably seemed like they were modded because there was, and it's still kind of the same now, where all of the people, almost all of the people in my chats are also my
Yeah,
mods. I don't
yeah.
have people who,
Most of the people in your chat you can trust,
yeah,
or
but
you've been sharing it so they can give links and stuff like that.
right. I mean, I, usually I don't. I mean, granted, very rarely have any of my mods actually stepped in to like put people in timeout or whatever.
Yeah, we usually nothing's happening around here that you have to, but of course.
Let's see. I could be wrong, but man, I almost tried to track down your email to warn you.
Well,
What
that's
you mean
nice.
when that was happening? I mean,
Yeah, I think that's what he means. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, first off, okay, if you guys been around me enough, you can probably tell I'm pretty old school.
Yeah.
I'm pretty old school. I usually try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and even if somebody was trying to bait me into something, it's almost like I'm either too smart to fall for it or too naive to fall for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Joshua.
Hey,
Joshua Hughes.
How would he become a lolcow just from making anti-trans? Yeah, actually, that's a question I have too, because even I don't understand that part. What exactly is a lolcow?
So okay, so a lolcow.
What was that?
It wouldn't even matter what statements you made if nobody was watching you, right? So that's one of the big things is a lolcow has to have a large audience. But a lolcow is somebody who maybe even for the most part doesn't even realize that the only reason people are watching them is to make fun of them, right? So like a lot of times it can sadly be people that have some type of disability, but even if they're not, sometimes they're just kind of dense. Like Darkside Phil is a lolcow. Chris Chan is kind of a lolcow too. And there's just like a bunch of people who have large followings and they think they have fans, but what they really have are kind of hecklers.
Or people who just want to watch them just to make them look
yeah.
stupid. Yeah,
sometimes that sounds like my channel, except for the large following.
Yeah. Well, again, though, I don't know why I would, lolcow chasers mainly try to trap autistic white male YouTubers, which I fall into that category. How about hosts like Music Bits Marty, Death by Design, Farm locals? Well,
yeah, but they wouldn't be trying to make you into a lolcow by getting you to try to say like anti-trans stuff. If anything, if they were going to try to do that, which for some groups of people that would be something they'd be laughing at, they would try to be building up your audience first before they try to trap you in anything, and clearly that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Fortunately or unfortunately.
Well, obviously, I wouldn't want my audience built for that reason. If I want my audience to be built on a on a sense of community, on a shared love of coming in. Anyway, I'm gonna go off camera here for a moment because you guys know we got that tropical storm coming in, so my room's not as bright as you can tell, so I'm gonna put some lights on here. So I'll be right back.
Yeah, I actually probably need to call my cousin because he's down in San Diego, and I know that it's going to be affecting him if it hasn't already.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm glad that you were able to look at the Canadian Shield one again. I didn't think there was a problem, but I sent it to, I'm not sure whether you've seen the guy that I think I interviewed on Wednesday. I sent him, he had sent me the digital copy of his book plus a physical thought copy. So I figured I'd send him a digital copy of Canadian Shield 1 remastered. And he did a review, but just sent it to me.
Oh, okay.
And he was saying something about grammar and all that. So I'm like, I figured with that, I'm going to get you to look at it, although I had already
the grammar. Okay, is as good as I could get you to make it. Because we've been over this. There's just some ways that you want certain people talking, right?
Yeah. Grammar and all that, over time, But he's supposed to speak the broken English and all that, Oh, when do I get my digital copies for Canadian Shield stuff? You can get those off the website too. They're like, I think, $3. I think I sent other ones I've sent you thing. Well, you bought the digital copies on here Comic Heroes can have bad grammar. Yeah. I think you bought them on the two of them on what's the name? Fund My Comic. JR. Yeah. Yeah, I just don't have the remastered one. Yeah, you can get that one digital, that one off my website for like $3 or whatever. I think that's Canadian. Now, let me see. Store comics to buy. That's fine. Yeah, $3. That's all there. All the comics are now on my website to buy. Physical and digital. As well. At some point, we need to go over Snowdrift.
Yes, at some point.
Well, I have the remastered one. I've just put avail. It hasn't been available to just recently because unless you bought the original look, JR, because you bought the cards or some cards or something like that, and I sent them to you. I'm not sure whether you bought. I'm not sure. I just know the Fund My Comic. I'm not sure whether you bought anything off of like my GoFundMe, my Indiegogo, or off my website before.
All right, so let me see if there's anything I need to get caught up on here. Let's see.
No, it's just Rick and JR going back and forth on things about money.
JR says my sister is a book editor for Penguin Random House. she edited Kim Campbell's autobiography.
They clip statements and post then post them to. Yeah, I mean, I think like the people I could see trying to do something like that would have been like JDA and Testify, and they would have probably been trying to do something like that, but I wouldn't really give them the time of day. When I get my digital copies.
When do I get my digital copies? Yeah, we went over all that.
Bad grammar. Yeah, I just don't have the remastered one. Let's see. I guess it's all from your exchanges, Rick, right?
Yeah.
I bought it.
Yeah.
Not you'd already responded. My sister. Okay, we just read that.
And I have to that one. I have to say, I feel sorry for your sister. Canada's first female prime minister, and maybe the shortest prime minister to ever take office.
In length or height?
Length. She had like 2, maybe 3 weeks in. The prime minister before her retired or whatever, and then she won it. And then like 2 weeks later, we were having an election, and she lost.
Yeah. So no, I think I do kind of, now that you guys explained what a lolcow was, I think I have seen it somewhat. Like I remember there was a situation, and not that I like to bring this guy up a whole lot, even though we probably brought him up more tonight than we have in a long time. Testify.
Yeah.
Women.
Am I right? I have no idea what you mean, Joshua.
Kim Campbell was prime. All right, yeah.
6 months? I thought it was less than that.
Anyway, so yeah, I remember a situation. Metal, do you know who Testify was?
Yeah, I know. I knew Testify briefly. Mostly of Testify, but I've had a very brief interactions with the guy.
Yeah, well, I was one of his targets for a while there, where he was trying to make it where, and it was all over that geeky pixie stuff, but yeah, that's another story for another day. But I remember him getting into it with, I guess it was a disabled girl who had a very pronounced lisp, who was a YouTuber. To the point to where another female YouTuber who was a friend of hers came to her defense. And I don't remember the girl's name or whatever, but supposedly they had an issue, and then they patched things up, but people were still, of course, suspicious of Testify and all that. So that was basically but I think it was something like that, right? Basically people just looking to troll or just trying to get people to say something stupid to get them caught or something. So
also, we have you beat. Our shortest length president was William Henry Harrison, and he only served for 32 days because he died in office.
Right.
Oh wow.
He caught pneumonia at his inauguration and was essentially sick.
Pneumonia is a symptom. He probably caught the flu and it gave him pneumonia. But yeah, he decided to be a tough guy, and instead of like going in with the rain, he wanted to finish his inauguration while it was raining.
Yeah.
Idiot. Yeah, she was prime minister from June 25th, 1993 to November 4th, 1993. So
well, yeah, we were talking a couple weeks ago when we were doing, of course, the Canadian comic overview for JR there. We were talking about, and I learned a little bit more about Canadian political history. Learned a little bit about current Trudeau's father, a little bit, and how basically for all intents and purposes, in truth, Prime Minister Trudeau is a bastard in the literal definition of the word.
Well, we're not sure about that. There's lots of speculation that Castro is his father, but it's not yet been proven.
A Cuban bastard. Anyways, so let's see. JDA is a right-wing lolcow former. He clips
Farmer.
people. Farmer. Lolcow farmer. He clips people and tried to accuse them of being P-words or criminals or anti-trans, anything to form race. Yeah, it's kind of funny because it wasn't actually JDA that I initially had my issues with. It was Testify. And, and for those who don't know the story, I'll try to give you a brief rundown. Rick, I might have told you about it a little bit before. It actually happened on this show, not when I was still doing it, but when this was still RJ's show. And I was a regular guest on there. And this is back when Testify was having an issue with one of his other co-hosts on a trash compactor. It was Stu.
Yeah, I know.
Using Stu of a whole bunch of that type of garbage too. And RJ kept trying to get him to he kept opening the floor to him to give him a chance to tell his side of the story, and he wasn't just having it. And I was looking at the chat, and there were like 4 or 5 others, myself. I know Will from Creative Outlet or Create Outlet or whatever was there. I think James might have been there too. James Lee might have been there too. There are a few of us who were there. And Testify was just taking up a whole bunch of the time there, dodging the question. And I was looking at the chat, and there were people in the chat who were feeling sorry for the rest of us. They were feeling sorry for RJ. They were feeling sorry for the rest of us because, Testify was taking up all this time,
Yeah.
And I finally tried to break through. I tried to, hey, RJ, you might want to look at the chat a bit here, And then that's when Testify decided to go after me. It's like he goes, I know. It's like one of those, I know what you did. I know what you did. And he talked about, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Geeky Pixie.
Well, just through the your story and all that.
Yeah. Well, Geeky Pixie. Now, I didn't know this. I thought it was a bunch of different people, mind you, at first, until RJ kind of clued me into it. But Geeky Pixie was, I guess, a guy who basically went on YouTube and did YouTube shows and played himself off as a girl. And basically, and that's when Testify started trying to make it sound like, oh, I must be gay or I must be LGBTQ because I, like a lot of people, fell for it. I honestly believed I was talking to a young woman, and Testify tried to make, and I wasn't getting all upset about it as much. I tried to defend myself, but then and that's what led. That's actually what led. RJ to just finally say, "Nope, we're not letting you on anymore." And then JDA tried to bait me in one time. JDA came, and you might remember this, Rick, because you were there when we were on Chris's channel, and JDA came by, and he invited me to go over onto his show, and I said no, because I actually at that point I had a feeling that something was up. I knew JDA and Testify had a connection, but I didn't know exactly how.
Yeah,
I was
unfortunately.
Oh, go ahead, Rick.
No, go ahead.
I was initially under the impression that Testify was the mastermind, the puppeteer, and JDA was the puppet. But RJ, again, kind of clued me in a little bit, and I eventually figured it out. It was actually the other way around. JDA was the puppeteer, and Testify was the puppet. So,
I don't know whether I'd say either was a puppet or puppeteer. I think just JDA was a big follower. Unfortunately, J I had I used to have some respect for JDA. He claims to be a Christian. I can't say whether he is or not. That's not my point. But his fruits certainly don't speak it, in my opinion. And Christ says you'll know them by their fruits.
yeah. There was that one little story we heard about a few weeks ago too. That might be even another sign that low-cal farming 101, catfish, autistic, white guy, then published chat logs. That's what happened to Climax Clearance. Well, Climax has been off YouTube 2 years.
Yeah. And I know about the photos, JR, of them. Rebel has a shirt about that. And I'm not saying that he isn't. I'm just saying it hasn't been proven. Nobody showed proof one way or another. So it's very highly suspicious. And it's probably true, but
yeah, I think
it hasn't been put into fact yet.
Yeah, I think this is the first time, Metal, that I mentioned it. But again, I usually talk as little about JDA or Testify as possible because they're not, they're not worth it. It gets back to them. Oh, Mike's talking about you, but I'm just relaying what's been in the past. But not,
Yeah.
But anyways, let's move on to something. Let's move on to something else because we're already at the hour mark, and we've been talking about a bunch of more miscellaneous stuff. But
not really a lot of niche stuff.
Yeah, just more YouTube stuff than anything else. If you want to call it that. Let's see. They've wrecked his life. He's awaiting trial for taking a baseball bat to a protester holding a sign saying Climax was a P word.
That's not Climax, that's Cryax.
Oh, Cryax?
All right. Because that's CYRAXX.
Oh, actually, it's Cyrax.
Cyrax, yeah. But it's not Climax.
Yes, Comic Con. Well, there was something that I did report on this past week. I was mentioning it to Metal before the show. Thought it would be a good discussion topic for tonight. I'll bring this up, and some of you might have heard about this. So go with. We'll go over this article and then
this article. I think I was there for this article.
Oh, when I was covering it.
Yeah, either that or it was a second one. I think he had said something about having done another article similar.
Well, yeah, okay. So, when I originally did this article, I had basically made a statement. I had wondered, how Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan would have responded to this, and then it just so happens a day later there an article came out that Graham Nolan did have a response to it. So we'll kind of go over both of them. So for context. So Blue Beetle director says DC villain Bane represents the, quote, unknown or forgotten or brushed under the rug history of interventionism in Latin America and the Caribbean, unquote.
And I say that guy doesn't know the character Bane.
Right. Article by John F. Trent published back on the 7th of almost 2 weeks ago.
It's like,
of course.
Can you pick up a comic and read it from when Bane was invented and told? His story was told in the comics. It was, I believe, 96, the same time as Superman died. Batman got his back broken.
Yeah. So anyways, Blue Beetle director Angel Manuel Soto recently shared that he believes DC Comics villain Bane represents the quote history of interventionism in Latin America and the Caribbean, unquote. Now, for those of you who just in case you don't know what that means, what he's talking about is America kind of getting involved in Latin American and Caribbean affairs. A lot of it's like through like the Iran Contra affairs, stuff like that. That's what he's referring to there. And that he took this view and applied it to Blue Beetle villain Carapace. This is from the movie that he's doing. Soto shared his thoughts during an interview with the Playlist, where he was asked, quote, what was it about like the origin of Bane, the story of Bane, that really like drew you to him and were like, in smaller quotes, I really want to tell this story, unquote.
Yeah, how about you tell the story of Blue Beetle?
You know, and one of the other things I said when I was it's a refrain I've been saying a lot from the Bible, Isaiah 6:9, I believe it's Isaiah 6:9. Right is called wrong, wrong is called right.
Yeah, but it's like like how about you just instead of wanting to put your spin or take or whatever, how about you look at the comics and you make a movie based on the comic? Not what you think the comic should be.
Well, because I don't think these people are really interested in what the comic or what the original intent of the character or creation was. They're more intent on pushing something forward.
Yeah, and of course, and not that I got anything against the current Blue Beetle, but I would actually like to probably see more Ted Kord Blue Beetle. I think first.
The thing is, though, he's been killed off.
Yeah, but it's the movies.
Not in that world.
Yeah. In the movies, who knows what's happening to him? Like I would honestly, I think it would be better, to have Ted Kord because it gives us some history of the Blue Beetle because even with the new one.
Yeah, but then by you coming, it's kind of funny. By you coming out and saying, "Oh, I want the Ted Kord Blue Beetle," as opposed to the Jamie, the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle, people will start calling you racist against Mexicans or Mexican Americans.
They can call me that. Doesn't mean it's true. I don't know, Jr. Jr. asks, is Bane in the movie or Carapax? I think probably Carapax, but he borrowed from what he thought Bane was to.
Right. That's the gist of what's going on here. So he responded, quote, as far as Bane goes, the comics that are about Bane's story, it felt like he's very misunderstood, much like Carapax in the movie. So, yeah, I mean, again, the whole wrong is called right is called wrong bit. He is a product of his environment, and that history has been buried. The history of the Caribbean, the Antilles, is the history that's brushed off in history books, unquote.
I would like to hear this guy qualify how he thinks Bane is misunderstood in the comics, his story, his origin.
I think we're about to get there, Rick. Quote, so for me, it was very important to be seen, maybe not, unquote. He continued, quote, and with the character of Bane, the formation of this villain, I think in his own right, he's also a hero in his story.
Yeah, we're all heroes in our own mind, like that's been said about villains for some time. Okay, so tell me something that hasn't been said about villains. Doom, Dr. Doom is the hero of his own story to him.
Well, I mean, and we talked a little bit about it with Namor too, with how he was presented too. Right?
Yeah, Namor. There's lots of evil characters that they're the hero, quote unquote, of their own story. Doesn't mean they are the hero, the real hero.
Yeah, just like Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, exactly.
So whatever happens at the end that might have gotten distorted because of what was done to him. I think that what he represents is a lot of the unknown or forgotten or brushed under the rug history of interventionism in Latin America and the Caribbean. Unquote. Now, mind you, as you guys know, I'm a big cartoon guy. Okay, big cartoon fan, right? I watched Batman the Animated Adventures when it came out, and numerous times over the years, all the way through. So, as I go back and I look at how Bane was depicted then, I got absolutely no sense of anything about interventionist. And that was the first time I had been exposed to Bane as a character, was through Batman the series.
Yeah, and that's around the time Bane was invented too, you know. But if I remember correctly for the comics, his history is basically his mom was born. He was born from his mom in prison. He ended up having to spend all his life in prison because of her or whatever. But at the same time, he developed himself in prison and then fought to get out in some way, shape, or form, and then hired himself out to be like a mercenary. Right. And so everybody in Gotham, the villains or whatever, somebody in Gotham hires him to take out Batman. So he was made to be a rival to Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm condensing it a lot. There's a lot more details in there.
All right. So, anyways, back to the article here. Soto then shared, quote, and that's why, I went in, I pitched Bane. They told me, in smaller quotes, that's sweet, but we got this, unsmaller quote. They appreciated it, but the call was because they wanted to show me this movie. And I fell in love with the script that Gareth, in brackets there, Dunnett Allosair, wrote. I felt that the script not only captured the essence of what it's like to have a Latino family, what it's like to be lost in this world, but be able to find yourself by not being ashamed of who you are, by embracing who you are with the power of family and community.
Yeah, but from what I've seen of the stuff of Blue Beetle, that's not. You can show that stuff in a different way. But like you have his whole family knowing who he is. He never shares that to his family.
Yeah. He then revealed he took what he viewed as Bane's backstory and grafted it onto Carapax in the Blue Beetle film. Quote,
so that's half of the reason the movie's bad. You're taking something that is wrong about a character and putting it on a character and making that character's wrong, probably too.
Yeah. Quote, but while working on the character of Carapax, I was like, in smaller quotes, well, I don't know if I'll ever make a Bane movie. Let me take what I loved about Bane, about the backstory that I wanted to explore, and let's give it to Carapax. So, if I had to guess here,
maybe I'm glad he'll never make a Bane movie.
A lot of his opinion on what people have done since, Chuck and Graham created Bane. Maybe he's taking the elements that they're pushing Bane with now as gospel. What do you think? What do you guys think of that reasoning right there?
Well, everything that's happened since then is the only thing that matters for them, right? And to some degree, like, I get it. The stories do add on top of things over time, and Bane is a very different character than he used to be. And I mean, he's become a very different character than he used to be very, very quickly since, like, the late 90s, early 2000s is when that started getting stacked on top of it. But the older character is just way better than what they've been doing with Bane lately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rick, did you want to say anything more on that?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I was just looking up who Carapax is. Apparently, he's an OMAC, one of the OMACs.
The one-man army corps.
Yeah.
And of course, that I wasn't even exposed to until I watched Batman: The Brave and the Bold. I had not even heard of OMAC prior to that. So,
and apparently, he was experimented. He was a Guatemalan war vet who became a cyborg capable of unleashing virtually indestructible weaponry after being experimented on by Cord Industries. He also is the former right hand of Victoria Cord, on a former enemy of Blue Beetle.
all right. So, because part of the idea was that maybe Carapax and Bane came from the same place, maybe, I mean, Pago Island, right?
I don't think so.
It's like, you merely adopted my backstory. I was born in it, molded by it.
Soto then explained the importance of taking a perceived version of Bane's backstory and applying it to Carapax. Quote, because we need it when we're introduced to the world in movies, right? Where we are seen as villains. It's just given that we were born that way.
No. Nobody thinks a villain is born that way. And no, OMAC is not that. It's been DC for quite some time, JR. Definitely not Image. Like, OMAX and DC go back to like the 80s at least.
Quote, and when we talk about the history of Latin America, nobody dares to question, well, what happened before? Okay, well, what happened before? More times than none, when you go back even before 1954, but if we want to go to 1954 in Guatemala, it was U.S. interventionism that drove these places to the miseries that they're in. So this is sounds like another SJW crying about how he believes America sucks.
Yeah. Well, also, as far as I know, it's not America's intervention. They were already pathetic to begin with.
Now here's a classic, huh? I think that's a pretty well-known cover right there, right? Or Image.
It was also Bane's best look was his original,
Or
when he had
DC.
that luchador feel to him. I think that's when he was the best. I hate it when they overly militarize him.
Yeah, same here.
I've never seen the modern version. I only know that older version. Again,
Well, they'll take like his old top right there is almost like a wrestling what's it called, leotard or whatever. Like, it's really tight to the skin, it cuts, it shows his muscles and everything, right? And his mask looks like a luchador mask. A lot of the modern ones, they'll replace that top part with almost like a combat vest that has pouches and things on it. And the Christopher Nolan movie has also had a lot of influence in how they redraw Bane now. So sometimes they'll actually draw like a physical mask over the mouthpiece.
Christopher
It'll also
Nolan,
kind of give him the
not
luchador
related to
look.
Graham
But,
Nolan, I take it, right?
yeah. No, I'm talking about the movie that Christopher Nolan made with Christian Bale.
Yeah, I know. I was making a name reference.
Yeah, Nolan. But yeah, it's had too much influence now that he's just become overly mercenary in look. While this old Image, right, he even almost has like a utility belt, and he looks like he's like this dark counterpart to Batman, like this wrestler coming out of nowhere who's just gonna break his back.
I never thought of him as an. I mean, I have read that there have been some characters that they've tried to pitch as kind of like the anti-Batman, as it were, but Bane was never one of those. It was usually somebody like Killer Moth or maybe even Calculator, But
No, Calculator is supposed to be considered the anti Oracle. They've made him that way. but Bane was made to be just like Batman in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he's supposed to be Batman, but because of his origin and stuff, he went down a dark route instead of a route for justice.
And I might be wrong about Omax. It looks like they were only created in 2005, the OMAC project, but I could have sworn they were out before that.
Well, Joshua is asking Prometheus. You guys still here?
Yeah.
Silent on me
because
there.
Prometheus is definitely like an anti-Batman. He's a Justice League villain.
No, I am right. The OMAC #1 by DC, The Bronze Age, was 1974. Jack Kirby. It was created by Jack Kirby.
All right. So, anyways, back to the article here.
You could also count Wrath and Hush as being designed to be anti-Batman too.
Yeah. Quote, so I'm not embarrassed to talk about it, unquote, Soto started. Quote, history is there. Nobody's trying to blame something. Quote, nobody's trying to say it's just like, hear us out. This is our story. And you know what? We can heal together. At the end of the day, we can all heal together if we recognize the stuff that has happened in the past and lift each other up in the way. And I feel the Reyes family lifts each other up. It's like, welcome to our stories in the same way that we're welcome to other stories. Welcome to our stories, and let's have a dialogue. It's beautiful, unquote, he concluded.
Yeah, but they've done this, it's good that, I guess you see, a Latin family do this, but they've had lots of other families do this in comics too. It's nothing special, because it's done. Peter Parker has Aunt May to lift him up. Superman has John and Martha Kent, lift him up, or Lois Lane when he gets married to her, There's all kinds of stuff like that in comics.
Oh, yes, but Rick, what you're forgetting is all those people are white.
Yeah, of course. Nobody can relate to, just a family. It doesn't really matter your skin, and the problems are not problems that you have in a family.
Yeah, you know what almost sounds borderline hypocritical here from his viewpoint there. You think about it. He's sitting there trying to talk about the strength of family and the connection of family and all that. Yet a lot of these SJWs just take a total dump on traditional family values. Right? If you're white, if you believe in like the mother and the father of the household and where in the more biblical standpoint of the father, the husband is the head of the household, the wife is subservient. No, that's bad. But any other kind of family is good. It's almost borderline hypocritical on their part, when they push this stuff. What do you say to that?
I would tend to agree.
Well, I just find it really ironic too, especially trying to use Latinos for it, because Hispanic people are just basically white. I mean, their whole culture it's still a European culture that everything comes from. Most of them are Catholic. Even here in the States, outside of, say, like migrants who come in here illegally, if you talk to anybody who came here illegally, they basically have the exact same culture and we all get along. And it's kind of weird that people try to divide us.
Yeah. Well, Jerry says America hasn't invaded any other country more than they've invaded Canada. But we're not a human rights and economic toilet like Guatemala. Not yet, but then that wouldn't be the state's fault. That's Justin Trudeau's fault.
Also why I hate the term white in that case too, because it's like, no. The culture is a European culture,
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of different people. There's even black people who are in a European culture now just because they've been in America for a really long time, right? It's like we're just a shared culture. We should share it.
Yeah. You I don't know. Well, Rick, you may not have seen this. And you might be a little young for this, but do either of you guys have you guys ever heard of Schoolhouse Rock?
Oh yeah, I
Schoolhouse
love
Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock.
All right, well, there's that one song, The Great American Melting Pot, The Great American Melting Pot.
I don't remember that one, but let's see. JR says the first country America made it was Canada, and Washington invaded Canada before the Revolutionary War even. He says, I lived on a counter invasion route, like Huron Indians invading Iroquois.
Listen, you guys had a choice very early on to join us, and you guys decided to throw that out. So it's not our fault that you're where you are right now.
No.
Okay, I don't get your last statement there, Metal. What are you talking about now?
Oh, I believe at the time too it was might have been Quebec back before it was still a French colony, but before it became like really really French because they started isolating themselves. But during our colonial days when we were forming the Union, we actually reached out to some places that are currently Canada to join us in the revolution, and they're just like, nah, we're good. Especially Ontario, we definitely reached out to them, and they were just like, nah, we don't want to turn on the crown. So now you guys, you're where you are. It's your fault.
Yeah. Oh, I don't blame anybody but us, And of course, I blame Justin Trudeau right now. We'd be better without Justin.
All right.
Well, just hopefully we don't get somebody worse.
Yeah, there's always that chance, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, we're already coming up on just past hour 20. So
just like you guys could get Kamala Harris.
As detailed in Batman Vengeance of Bane #1, Bane was sentenced to serve out the sentence of his father, who seemingly engaged in a violent coup that was put down by the rulers of the Republic of Santa Prisca. He was born in the prison called Penadoro, and was kept in protective custody until his mother died when he was 6. From there, he was released into the prison's general population after a brutal encounter with 2 prisoners. He fell and laid in a coma for a month. When he awoke, he brutally murdered one of the prisoners who attempted to make him his pawn. For punishment, the warden sent him to the hole where he survived on the rats and the fish he killed when the cell was flooded. Now, the hole, for those of you who may not know what the term means here, solitary confinement is what they're talking about. That's what they mean by the hole.
Yeah. And, anything in that has to do with, America, trying to intervene, that's their prison system or whatever,
Yeah. Well, specifically, it's called the Hull because it comes from naval terms, and ships have multiple walls between them, the outside. So the Hull is a spot in the prison where you're so far away from everything, you're inside solitary, that the sun doesn't shine. You don't get sunlight, you don't get people, you get nothing.
Yeah. And JR says, although the 19th century after the Civil War, the Irish Republican Army invaded Canada across the border with covert U.S. support about 6 times.
All right. So, anyways, as we continue on, after spending a decade in the hole, Bane was released back into general population, where he spent his time consuming thousands of books, mastering multiple languages, and honing his body into a perfect killing. Okay, so I guess I can see now what you guys are. Maybe I didn't even realize that fully.
Yeah, that part of him, but
Well, because all I've seen of him is more as a mercenary / assassin.
Yeah.
Not only did he spend a significant portion of his time training, but he also had to defend his position as ruler of the prison from time to time. However, he was still a prisoner and soon came under the thumb of the warden when his body count reached 30. The warden and his men subdued Bane, subjected him to experimental treatments and surgery, including involving drug venom. After the experiments, he collaborated with an inmate named Zombie, who was able to duplicate venom. Bane then faked his own death and was seemingly fed to the sharks. However, he returned to the prison, captured the warden, and freed a number of the inmates, who he then took with him to Gotham City, where he challenged Batman. Look at that. It's possible to read American interventionism in Bane's origin story if you believe the Americans were somehow aiding the government forces of Santa Prisca and brutally put down the attempted coup. However, nowhere in Vengeance of Bane #1 does it indicate Americans had anything to do with the coup on Santa Prisca. What do you make of Soto's claiming that Bane's origin story is an allegory for American interventionism in Latin America and the Caribbean?
I think I make of it that Soto has no brain cells.
No. He has to have a lot. They're just not very functional because you'd have to do some major thinking to go through that level of mental gymnastics.
Oh, yeah, sure. I guess so. Okay, he's just insane.
It sounds even to me, it sounded like quite a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of a
talking
stretch.
About the whole, it actually did remind me of a nice fact about history. Is one of the older forms of solitary confinement comes from medieval Europe, and they had a thing called an oubliette, which is a type of prison that had to be dug into the ground that almost looked like a well from the top. But as they dug down, it got wider and wider and wider so that the ceiling kind of curved up towards the entrance. And the only way in and out, thanks to the ceiling curving like that, meaning you can't climb it, is if somebody were to lift a ladder or rope down for you. And they would just
sort of like I was going to say, sort of like what they did in the movie for the last one.
They kind of just turned the hole into an old-fashioned oubliette in a way, but they actually just made it a bigger, huge opening hole, like a reservoir or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I to me, Soto either is lacking in brain function, or he's just full of it.
It's like, have you read Bane's story?
I mean, even from the exposure I've had of Bane to the cartoons, okay.
Yeah.
I never in a million years would have came up with that idea that it's an allegory for American interventionism.
Cheers, like sounds legit to me, but I love his historiography, how history is perceived versus what it is, what factually was.
What it factually was. Sounds legit to me, but I love historiography, how history is perceived versus what it factually was.
Yeah.
Sounds like a buried theme to me. All right. Well, as I had mentioned when I initially covered this, of course, when I covered this, I had wondered, because hearing that Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan had actually created the characters, of course, I had wondered myself, well, how would they have responded? And it just so happens, like, I think like a day or so later, Graham Nolan did actually respond. And as soon as I get down to that article, going back almost 2 weeks worth of articles here.
Yes, and probably this week I'm going to subject myself to the horror of Blue Beetle.
But why though?
I don't know. Because I want to go see a superhero movie. Hopefully I'll come out fuming.
Honestly, I'm glad that most of the movies in the theaters have just been so awful lately because I love going to the theater, but it saved me a lot of money on movie theater tickets not really having anything I want to see.
Yeah. I agree.
As I said, sometimes going back like this far back to find stories, it does take a bit to do.
Yeah. JR says, for instance, ultimate evil is Nazis, so American intervention was heroic despite supporting Stalin, who killed 20 million people, the Mao, who killed
Mao.
the Mao, who killed
Mao,
50
General
million.
Mao. He, with his Great Leap Forward, he was what kind of currently put China into the state it is now.
All right, so I found the article. It took me a while to do so. So here's the response article, as I mentioned. Bane creator Graham Nolan reacts to smaller quote Blue Beetle director claiming the character represents American interventionism in Latin America. Article by John F. Trent, published August 8th, as I said, a day later. Comic book movie section. Bane creator Graham Nolan recently shared his thoughts in regards to Blue Beetle director Angel Manuel Soto, claiming that the DC villain represents American interventionism in Latin America.
JR says, and the UK declared war on Germany for invading Poland through Stalin, although Stalin did the same.
In a recent interview with the Playlist, Soto shared his thoughts on Bane while promoting the upcoming Blue Beetle film and detailing DC pitched him on Blue Beetle after he came to them Bane movie. And a lot of that's just what we already read, so I'm going to skip through that as soon as I can find. A lot of it was just taken from the other article. Okay, so this is where we'll start from this point. Nolan shared his brief thoughts on Soto's comments on Twitter's. First, Nolan reacted to comic book writer and editor Aaron Sparrow's comment, simply writing, quote, well, that's a lot of horse manure. You can read what the actual word is, but you guys know I try to avoid that. So even Graham Nolan called it a lot of horse manure. Yeah. Oh, actually, Aaron Sparrow is saying, if it's all the same to Soto, I think I'll trust the creators of the characters, Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan, to tell me what Bane represents. He provided more details when asked for his thoughts by Twitter user HDT885. Nolan stated, quote, too much personal projection. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, probably.
100%.
I think that hits the nail right on the head, don't you?
Yeah.
He's correct in that Bane is a product of his environment, but the socio-political extrapolations he's making were never during Bane's creation, unquote. And I believe that. I mean, as metal as you put it earlier, you'd have to go through some pretty complex form of mental gymnastics to do what Soto did. I'm surprised his head didn't explode.
Yeah, as I said in the comment of the chat when you were reading this article, Batman was not Batman. Bane was created to be a rival for Batman.
Mhm.
You know, unlike the Joker, one that could actually, you know, stand on the, you know, against him, who would physically and have the same smarts too.
Well, I'm not surprised his brain didn't explode. Mental gymnastics is the only training any of these people do.
Oh, that is so good. Let's give Metal an applause for that one.
Good Nolan
voice work right there.
Bane.
That was great.
The Tom Hardy, yeah.
Yeah.
That was great. Anyways, Nolan last worked on Bane alongside the character's fellow co-creator Chuck Dixon in Bane Conquest, which was published back in 2018. However, since that book, Nolan launched his own comic book universe. Okay, and you can see the spelling error. They spelled commib. I believe we know that's comic book universe. Dubbed the Nolanverse through his company Compass Comics. The Nolanverse currently consists of the horror titles The Chino and Alien Alamo. It also includes The Ghost of Matacumbe Key, an upcoming supernatural horror story that is currently funding on Indiegogo. Alongside these Nolanverse titles, Nolan also relaunched his Joe Frankenstein series with Chuck Dixon. The duo first republished the 4-issue 2015 IDW series into 2 collected editions, with a second volume expected to ship to Indiegogo backers in September of 2023. Nolan teased on the original crowdfunded campaign that the series would be joining his Nolanverse and that readers would want to get caught up with these books before diving into The Ghost of Matacumbe Key. Look at that artwork looks pretty good right there.
Yeah.
Gritty artwork. A lot of kind of the brown, yellow, and darker colors used there, which are made into a pretty beautiful combination there. Let's see. Outside of the Nolanverse, but still published through Compass Comics, Nolan brought together a team of top comic book talent, including Chuck Dixon, Mike Barron, Bo Smith, Tim Rozon, Kevin Graveau, Michael Golden, Butch Guice, or Geis, I'm not sure exactly how, David Williams, Andrew Paquette, Larry Stroman, Roberto Casto, Don Lawless, Kelsey Shannon, Andy Kuhn. For the action-packed anthology series, giant-sized, two-fisted manly tales. Yeah, and I'd heard about this too. They've been talking about this for a year now, I guess. Yeah, get that action, adventure, and butt kicking. What do you make of Nolan's reaction to Angel Manuel Soto's comments about Bane? Well, what do you guys think?
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a lot of horseshit.
I think everybody with a sound mind probably agrees that Angel Manuel Soto is full of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, so there's that. So we're at hour 39. So I think it's a good time to start winding things down. Because we've been at it for a while here. What did you guys think of? What did you guys overall think of that story and those articles?
Soto needs to get a new job.
Well, based on the people hiring now, I think he has a perfect job. I think they just need to nuke everything in the company and start over.
So,
Yeah, well, there's that too.
all right. Well, of course, today is August 20th, 2023. And as such, you guys know what time of the show it is, right?
Could it be Nietzsche history or
Yeah.
Nietzsche weekend?
In this case, it's time to take a look back at this weekend in Nietzsche history. Normally it's this day, but since we don't do a show on Saturday, we just do this weekend in Nietzsche history. So with that, going back to yesterday, going back 90 years ago yesterday, for our first bit here. On yesterday's date, 90 years ago, Lullaby Land, a Silly Symphonies animated Disney short film, premiered in movie theaters on yesterday's date back in 1933, 90 years ago yesterday. 90 years ago yesterday, the Silly Symphonies Walt Disney produced Lullaby Land premiered on yesterday's date 90 years ago. The quilt from Lullaby Land inspired the garden section of the Storybook Land canal boats ride at Disneyland, California.
Whoa, that was some time ago, Sonny.
Yes, it was. My back. Anyways. And going back 10 years ago yesterday. 10 years ago yesterday.
Well, that wasn't so long ago, Sonny.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. From the Honda Center in Anaheim, California, 10 years ago, WWE held its Monday Night Raw event. On that show, the Miz defeat Wade Barrett by disqualification. The Usos defeated the duo from TMB of Heath Slater and Jinder Mahal. Let's see. The Shield won 2 3-on-1 handicap matches. The second of which was they defeated the Big Show in a 3-on-1. Shield, known, was the trio of Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. Dean Ambrose, who of course now goes by John Moxley in AEW. Earlier in the night, they defeated Dolph Ziggler in a 3-on-1 match as well. And the opening of the show saw Cody Rhodes defeat Damian Sandow. So, 10 years ago yesterday was WWE held its Monday Night Raw event from the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. And 75 years ago today, the 60th issue of Fawcett Funny Animals went on sale on this date back in 1948, 75 years ago today. Sold for 10 cents for 32 pages. This comic was pretty much Fawcett's. It was basically an anthropomorphic type of comic. Anthropomorphic animals, much like Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry and all that. This is in comic form. Fawcett's Funny Animals.
Yeah. Because there's a whole genre of books called funny animal books that pretty much takes its name from that.
Yeah. So the 60th issue of Fawcett's Funny Animals went on sale 75 years ago.
It looks like they have a rabbit version of Captain Marvel.
Yep. Yeah, that does look. I see that. So there you go. Well, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I thank everybody for all the likes and shares. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We had some pretty lively discussions, didn't we, guys?
Yeah.
All right. So So, before we leave, of course, we're going to go ahead and do some outros. We'll start with Metal since he's up in the secondary. We'll go with Metal, Rick, and then I'll finish up. So, Metal, you want to share? And as you guys are doing your outros, you guys want to share any links, anything? Go for it. So, Metal, you're up.
Oh, yeah, I just want to share basically the same link I shared at the start of it and have people go over and subscribe to the Vomitorium, which is at the Vomitorium Podcast here on YouTube. Again, we have our twice weekly show at 6 p.m. Central on Tuesdays and Saturdays, ends at 7:30. But I'm also randomly on there doing stuff. Currently, I'm playing through Honkai Star Rail, but I've got other games I might play, and I also have other non-gaming related content that's planned to put up on that channel soon, as soon as I work out with some of the other people I'm planning to do it with.
Cool.
All right, Rick. Wait. What was that
that's
all?
it.
Metal,
That's it.
All right, Rick, you're up.
No, that's not Dillard Draws. Well, maybe I don't think Metal's going to be working with Dillard. But
He does come on from time to time.
But of course, he's actually on right now too on his own channel. So I guess I'll promote that, but I won't share the link. But no, I'm going to promote my website again. Just go there. There's a bunch of new. Like I was saying, got some T-shirts on there. Comics are on there to buy. Even my latest 4 trading cards are on there to buy. So a lot of different things. Unfortunately, I have yet to make a shopping cart. Be able to make a shopping cart. So you have to buy them individually.
All right, so with that, then, I'll go ahead and do my little outro here. So, of course, as you guys know, we're on 6 nights a week. Sundays are our panel show, and I thank my panelists being here, Metal and Rick. Thank you guys for being here. Also, as you guys know, we do the Niche Newscast Monday through Thursday, where I go over articles and give my commentary on what's basically been going on. Obviously, we're a little behind, but we will eventually get caught up. And of course, this Friday, Apex from Apex Comics will be joining me as my co-host as we start our coverage of December of comics that went on sale in December of 1939. This week, we'll be getting back to DC Comics, books that went on sale. We'll be, of course, looking at Action Comics Volume 1, Number 20, Adventure Comics, and the features we'll probably be going over will include Superman, Hawkman, and Sandman. So,
Cool.
and time permitting, of course, we may even hit Speed Saunders if time permitting. I'll have Apex on with me, so hopefully, the gentlemen all thank you for sharing comic talk with me and a humble consumer. No problem, JR. We always appreciate your patronage. So with that, guys, I thank you all for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow night and every night we're on the Mikestand, where as I always say, I always appreciate all the likes and the shares. Help bring in more friendly people to be part of our community, and also as we do cover, do our coverage, always feel free, comment and or ask questions. We always try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So with that, I thank you all for being here, and I will see you all tomorrow.
'Cause it's only a day away.
Bye.